Hello and welcome to another Cygnus Destroyer Top 10. As should be clear to anyone who's looked at my channel, I'm a big fan of what is known these days as retro gaming, and judging by the comments that I receive in my videos, I'm not alone. Gamers of all ages are seeking out the classic titles that paved the way for the current scene, and today's designers, who grew up during the 8 and 16-bit eras, are producing original works heavily inspired by their gaming roots. A secondary effect of this is that old franchises are being revived via reboots or HD remasters. I very much approve of this trend, so I'm going to count down 10 retro games or franchises that I'd like to see rebooted or be HD remastered. As with all my top 10s, I have a few disclaimers before I begin. For starters, any property that has had a reboot, remaster, or any kind of recent release is omitted from the list. From what I could tell, none of my entries have been active since around 2010, but if I'm wrong about that, I'm sure someone will let me know in the comments. The last major disclaimer is that I decided to exclude licensed tie-ins. That was pretty tough to do, but I felt it was appropriate since Bucky O'Hare would be number 1, and Bucky was number 1 in the last top 10, so he's gonna sit this one out. Anyway, enough of the rules. Let's kick this off with... Konami's arcade run-and-gun shoot-'em-up may be slightly on the obscure side, but it's totally deserving of an updated release. In it, we step into the virtual shoes of a bounty hunter in the Old West, and we have to take down outlaws to receive a reward. It's simple in story, but offers quite a challenge and is a lot of fun. Sunset Riders was ported onto the Genesis and Super Nintendo, with the Sega version featured here being inferior due to only featuring 2 of the 4 characters. Sunset Riders is a winner in spite of this, and Konami had a great idea on their hands. An HD remaster or proper sequel to this unusual shooter would be welcomed with open arms by the retro community.
That's a nice boy.
You guys are gonna think I'm crazy for this one, but I'm completely serious when I say that number 9 is...
Make your selection now.
Yes, the notorious Action 52. Anyone who's seen the 2-part episode of Innocent Until Proven Guilty already knows my opinion on Active Enterprise's failed multi-cart. Yes, it's a nearly broken mess, but I still enjoy playing it for what it is, and I love the concept. I would be so down for a remake in order to finally get it done right, which is exactly what the fan-made effort under the name of Action 52 Owns set out to accomplish. The project, which has been in development since 2010, looks very promising, but it would be cool if the original team could get back together to make something without a deadline and a bigger budget. At the least, an HD Cheetahman would rock my socks off. Speaking of rocking... I'm not really a fan of racing games, but I could never get enough of Road Rash back in the day, and I still can't. I know that EA has a bit of a bad reputation these days, but I'll always have respect for them for giving us this amazing series. Road Rash started out on the Genesis, which is how I discovered it, but the 3DO version, which I had for the PS1 when I was a teenager, was where it reached its peak. Everything was cranked up to the extreme, and the licensed soundtrack really pumped me up. The current consoles are lacking that sort of energy, so a Road Rash for the new generation is long overdue. Metal Storm is one of the most unique titles for the NES, and it was perhaps due to this that it underperformed commercially. Metal Storm is a platformer, and it pushed the boundaries of what the genre was capable of. The robot hero can shift the gravitational pull at a moment's notice in order to walk along the ceiling or avoid obstacles. Tamtex and IREM produced magic in a plastic cartridge. The level design, graphical style, and music are all top-notch. This is 8-bit programming at its finest. The possibilities for a remake or reboot of Metal Storm are nearly endless, and I, for one, would be walking on the clouds if it came to fruition.
You gotta do what?
I gotta believe!
Speaking of unique, Parappa the Rapper was unlike anything I'd ever experienced with a controller in my hands, and it was my first taste of the rhythm genre. As the title suggests, the stages in Parappa involve a series of rap battles that advance the plot. Parappa takes karate lessons, gets a driver's license, and bakes a cake to impress the girl of his dreams, Sunny Funny. Without giving too much away, my favorite segment is after Sunny's party. Parappa indulges himself on the food, and he has to relieve himself. Parappa the Rapper is hilarious, and it has a catchy soundtrack that will stick with you for days. Minus an appearance in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, Parappa has been silent since the sequel was released in 2001. Rumor has it that a third installment is in the works, and to paraphrase the protagonist's catchphrase, we've gotta believe that it will happen.
Crack, crack, crack the egg into the bowl.
M-I-X the flour to the bowl.
M-I-X the flour into the bowl.
One of Konami's best 16-bit entries, Legend of the Mystical Ninja, as it was known in Western regions, is part platformer, part RPG, and all awesome. It focuses on the adventures of Kid Ying and Dr. Yang as they help rid their town and neighboring islands of evil forces. Of course, Kid Ying and Dr. Yang are more familiarly known as Goemon and Abisumaru, and Legend of the Mystical Ninja is a Ganbare Goemon sequel. Ganbare Goemon was largely Japan exclusive, with the US only receiving this and a couple N64 offerings. Goemon has been sadly inactive since 2005, so Konami has to sort their issues and bring us more Goemon. I know that Jimmy Hoppa of Import Gaming for the Win agrees with me. Yes, I'm ending this with a cheap plug for a fellow YouTuber friend of mine. The guy has extensive Ganbare Goemon coverage and his reviews are fantastic. Or should that be fantastic? Sorry, old in-joke. Moving on. Ah yes, my favorite point-and-click adventure of all time. The Secret of Monkey Island from LucasArts is a masterpiece, and that's not even strong enough to describe it. Centering around the exploits of wannabe pirate Guybrush Threepwood, Monkey Island has it all. An eclectic and interesting cast of characters, brilliant dialogue written by Gilbert, Grossman, and Schaefer, sword fighting based around tossing insults back and forth, and rubber chickens. What more could anyone possibly ask for? The Secret of Monkey Island and its sequel, LeChuck's Revenge, actually were remastered in 2010 with upgraded visuals and voiceover. I highly recommend checking these out, but I long for another trip to Melee Island. LucasArts was on a roll in the early 90s. Zombies Ate My Neighbors takes inspiration from classic horror films, but blends it with a quirky sense of humor, which is evident in the types of weapons the two teenagers use to eliminate the undead menace. The main objective of zombies is to protect the titular civilians, and this can definitely be easier said than done. Regardless, this LucasArts gem has a killer vibe that's perfect for Halloween. While a follow-up was produced in the form of the supposedly disappointing Ghoul Patrol, a new Zombies Ate My Neighbors with online co-op would be spooktacular. Rare's resident TMNT ripoffs the original Battletoads as a mixed reception. Some people love it, others hate it with a fiery passion. Battletoads combine beat-em-up, platformer, and racing elements into a hybrid known for its ridiculous difficulty. Many have been stuck at the turbo tunnel for years, myself included until a month or so ago, and it only gets tougher from there. A modern Battletoads would please old-school challenge seekers, but also ease back on the brutality to not alienate beginners. With their recent appearance in Shovel Knight and the upcoming release of the Rare Replay collection, this one might just happen. Here's to a promising future. And now we're up to number 1. There are a lot of games in series that I hope make a return, but none more so than... Call me predictable, but there was never a doubt that Streets of Rage would be my top pick. Like I've said countless times before, Streets of Rage 2 is one of my all-time favorites. It was the reason that I got a Sega Genesis. I can and have played it over and over throughout the years, and it never gets old. A 4th entry in the franchise with the entire roster from the trilogy would be mind-blowing. Imagine Adam fighting alongside Skate or Max busting heads with Zan. Nothing could ever compare to that. I suppose there's always the fan-made remake, which is a dream come true for SOR fans around the globe, but I'm gonna remain optimistic for the true Streets of Rage 4 we've all been waiting for. Whether Streets of Rage 4 will ever happen remains to be seen, but I'm sure that there will be plenty of reboots and remasters in the future, and if there are any of the selections from this video, that's even better. Many of you watching this probably have different choices, and that's fine. Feel free to leave those picks in the comments below. Believe me, narrowing this down to just 10 was tough. I had a number of alternate options in mind, and I bet I'm showing some of them behind me right now. Anyway, that concludes another top 10, but come back next week for a new Cygnus Destroyer review. Until then, this is Matt, signing out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Come back next week for a new Cygnus Destroyer review, but until then, you can check out the videos on the screen right here. In the upper left-hand corner, that is the last Cygnus Destroyer review on the Ninja Gaiden arcade game. I bet some people out there didn't know that there was a Ninja Gaiden arcade game, and that it was actually really different from the NES releases that followed. So it's a really interesting game, and I think you'll like my review on it, so click on that upper left-hand box to watch that. Now in the upper right-hand corner, since it's August, and August means Spider-Man, how about the Spider-Man month playlist? Check that out. From last year, I did a whole, it was actually my first experiment with weekly videos. So yeah, I did all the Game Boy games of Spider-Man and the Atari 2600 Spider-Man game. So check that out. I had a lot of fun making it, and they're really good videos, so check that out. Now in the bottom left-hand corner, that is just the playlist for my top 10 videos. So if anybody is new to them and you haven't seen the other ones, then click that. It'll take you from the very first one on the top 10 licensed games that get a bad rap. So click that to check it out. And as always, for anybody who's new to the channel, if you like what you saw, click that red box right there, and that'll subscribe you to the channel, and you'll be able to keep up to date with all my current content. So like I said before, come back next week for a new Cygnus video, but until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye!